California drivers are paying even more now at the pump. The state's gas tax has increased by just over 2 cents per gallon as part of an automatic inflation adjustment that is tied to the state's 2017 transportation funding law. That pushes the tax to 63.4 cents per gallon, the highest in the nation.
Seems like a bit of like an opportune timing for people that want to maximize whatever tax gets collected.
So today is July 1st, and many of you probably know that's typically the day where a bunch of new state laws take effect, right? You see all those local headlines, oh, effective July 1st, this is going to be happening. Which is why I think it's actually a great day to highlight the wonderful agenda that Democrats have on affordability, which translates to, of course, making things less affordable and knowingly raising prices on people in the name of affordability. And we've actually pointed this out many times, right? When Democrats say quote unquote affordability, to the normal working person, they probably assume, oh, that means cheaper prices for me, right? Cheaper gas, cheaper groceries, things like that. No, it actually means raising taxes on ordinary working people in order to money launder that to their various causes, whether that is the welfare state or a bunch of shady or corrupt contractors, things like this. And so, yeah, sure, perhaps for the average Section 8 EBT fraudster, Democrats are the party of affordability, but they're causing mass inflation and higher taxation for everybody else. And we've explained that many times. But there is no greater example than California, where this month, guess what? I know in what's going to come as a big surprise to everybody, Gavin Newsom and state legislators are once again raising the gas tax. That is right. And so, this is a thing they've been doing for some time now. We know that California has the highest gas prices in the country thanks to their insane taxation and overregulation of the oil industry. These things are all well established. But what's quite hilarious is that in a very shameless sense, we have Democrat politicians like Adam Schiff going out and basically saying, what's going on, guys? Why are gas prices so high? And they're now calling, I kid you not, for investigations into price gouging. That is right. That is the new Democrat conspiracy theory. The reason that gas prices in California have been the highest in the country overall for like a decade now is not because of anything we're doing as they're actively raising the gas tax. Like right now, right? They're raising the gas tax and saying, wow, we can't figure out why nobody can afford gasoline, guys. It must be that damn corporate greed, right? It must be the price gouging. Just utterly ridiculous, but let's talk about this here today because, again, looking into the midterms, this is going to come. A bunch of Democrats are going to talk about affordability and inflation and things like that, and yet, as we already saw them do in Virginia, their whole plan on housing was to build more Section 8 housing and things like that. Or as they're going to do right now in California. Please understand, when Democrats say affordability, which is a cool buzzword, and you might think it means the same thing that you define affordability to mean, no, this is exactly what affordability is all about. It's literally like raising taxes on people who actually drive and work for a living in order to launder that to what? Free healthcare for illegal aliens, welfare fraudsters, people who are basically gaming the system. That's actually very central to the political machine of the Democrat Party, right? The Democrat Party's wheels could not turn if it were not for those very delinquent, grifting, fraudster type of individuals, as we've learned perhaps throughout the past year. But nonetheless, what's going on in California, my home state? Let's talk about it. This is so ridiculous. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, let's first of all start by taking a listen to the reason why California is once again raising the gas tax. And maybe hopeful, I understand that Californian liberals have 2 brain cells and they have no capacity for pattern recognition. But you might notice it's the same exact excuse they used the past 2 to 3 times, which is every single time they say, oh, if we just raise the gas tax, we'll be able to fix the roads. Hey, Californians, how are the roads? Do you ever see them getting fixed? Clearly, it doesn't seem to be a revenue problem, is it? I don't know. Nonetheless, we'll talk about that in a second. First, take a listen for these details.
Since 2019, Californians have been seeing an increase in prices per gallon of 2.2 cents every July 1st. State lawmakers passed a measure that's supposed to help cover the cost of road repairs around the state. That's what this extra tax is every year. Problem is, as the gas tax rises prices every summer, the revenue earned isn't going up like lawmakers had hoped. And of course, the reason for that is because of all those electric vehicles are on the road.
Oh, really? Well, isn't that such an interesting detail? Did you catch that? Despite the fact that they keep on raising the taxes, the tax revenue they're getting is not actually going up. Well, gee, you don't say. You mean to tell me for the first time that raising taxes doesn't always increase revenue? Because guess what? Oftentimes it just creates incentive structures for people to avoid the taxes. And so, as they point out, right, a bunch of people in California, they either have EVs or Priuses now, or they've been priced out of the market, or they've just left the state altogether. And as a result, the state's not actually seeing an increase in revenue. But what is their big-brained awesome solution? Even though we've already established raising the gas tax is not working. By the way, where are those roads, by the way, that you said you were going to have, right? We don't have the money for that. But oh, let's raise the tax again. Surely this time it will work. And all these like liberal slave brains sit there and say, okay, I'll pay more if it means we get to fight climate change. Oh, it's getting hotter every summer still. No, but a little bit more, guys. And I'm sure, by the way, Californians, if you just do that billionaire tax you're talking about, everything's going to magically fix itself 100%. Totally, your state's not just going to just launder the money to a bunch of criminals and foreigners, and you're going to see none of that. No, surely, I'm sure. Go and vote for that, right? See what happens. So ridiculous. And, you might also point out, as we'll show you in a second, in some ways, raising the gas tax is incredibly a regressive form of taxation, is it not? Which is to say, it disproportionately affects a lot of maybe working class people. Like, let's talk about even like landscapers or blue collar people in California who have to drive a lot for work, or although a lot of white collar people do as well, right? But especially, who's going to get hit hardest by this gas tax increase? The working class. You might sit there and say, oh, aren't Democrats supposed to be about the working class? Aren't they the party of like helping the little guy? How is that ideologically consistent? Well, again, here's the thing to understand. No, Democrats are not for the working class. Therefore, basically, I guess you could say poor people. And keep in mind, when I say poor, I mean people legally below the poverty line, not people who work for a living $40,000, $60,000 a year and above, things like that. But literally, for example, people living in Section 8, EBT, collecting unemployment, welfare, all of those things. See, here's the thing to understand. That is the Democrat voter base. And by the way, this whole thing of welfare fraud, obviously, incredibly mainstream and commonplace in California. See, those people don't drive for a living. Those people probably don't even have cars. They're certainly not making commutes because guess what? They don't have jobs. And yeah, for those people, right? They don't see the effects of it. All they know is, oh, more welfare money for me, I guess, right? So please understand, we've said this many times, but that is like the Democrat Party's actual campaign strategy, and that's their actual political platform, right? It's money laundering to a bunch of welfare fraudsters. It is not helping the working class, helping the union worker, stuff like that. That's all made up. That's fake. That's basically a LARP, right? That's a skin suit they wear from maybe the Democrat Party of the 1960s to just maintain some form of credibility. That's not in any way what their politics stand for. And this is a prime example. But by the way, as it pertains to those roads, folks, and I remember back when I was living in California full time in 2018, they did a ballot proposition on this very issue to raise the gas tax. And because the Secretary of State at the time did this very manipulative language, it ended up passing very narrowly. But the excuse that was used back then, and keep in mind, 2018, I know, make everyone feel old. That's almost 10 years ago now that they did that proposition. The promise was, if we simply raise the gas tax by a little bit, guys, just a couple cents, everyone pay their fair share, that the roads would get fixed. That's what it's supposed to be about, right? It's about infrastructure funding. Nearly 10 years later, where is the payoff of that infrastructure funding, right? Notice how the roads are still terrible. So even for the stated intended purpose that they did this for the past almost 10 years now, it's not materializing at all. Why is that? It's very simple. The money's being embezzled, right? It's being laundered. It's the same story with the California high-speed rail. They give the money out to these contractors. The contractors hire a bunch of illegal aliens. Nobody really works. They overbill. It's past time. And, you know, it's a big ripoff basically by the state. But in some ways, that's the revolving door, right? Oh, in order to, we'll give the contracts out to our political friends, our political donors, you know, make sure that in the end, they don't have to really work either, but they give us favors in return. You know how that stuff goes. But what is the result, folks? It's this right here.
Not too sure about where this tax money is actually going.
I just drove down from Washington, and as soon as I got to LA, it was the most noticeably bad roads I've driven in half the United States.
Gas Buddy says the statewide average right now in California, $5.38 a gallon. That's 64 cents lower than the $6.02 a gallon that we were paying about a month ago. Still 82 cents higher than a year ago. So we're still paying higher prices. If you remember last year, $4.56.
And surely that one's got a sting, right? Even the guy from far left Washington state is saying what? Some of the worst roads I ever drove in all of the United States. And Washington is a place, by the way, that, as you probably know, it rains all the time. They're not exactly governed by Republicans, but I would just imagine the state government there is probably just a little less corrupt when it comes to contracting than California. And what a statement that is. And by the way, how often have we heard that stupid dribble from liberals that, oh, you conservatives and your low taxes, who's going to pave the roads? Who's going to take care of the infrastructure if we don't pay our fair share in taxes? Oh, gee, really, California? That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure, right? Without your absurdly high gas tax, you're right. Who else would be, where would the money exist to pay a bunch of illegal alien contractors to pretend to fix the roads and not do the jobs? That's very interesting how that works. But you have that. As you could expect, consumers are generally unhappy with the prices of gas in California because even at their lows, what was that news report saying? $4.56 a gallon. Still a ridiculous high price, but we've known that for the past decade, right? And it's no secret. California, first of all, taxes and regulates the crap, not just out of consumers, but also the oil industry. We covered a story earlier this year about how the last oil refineries in California were shutting down due to Gavin Newsom, due to Democrats with all their climate change crap, you know, just trying to push them out saying oil is bad, right? So it's not exactly much of a secret why. And by the way, they have these like different emission standards for gasoline in California too, stuff like that. So this is all to say, it's not exactly much of a secret. I don't even think it's really up for dispute why gasoline is high in California. It's because of Democrats. It's because of left-wing policies. And this is not something they're exactly all that quiet or hidden about. Again, they're like publicly raising the gas tax. But I kid you not, in the most hilarious chronicle of it all, we now have California politicians like Adam Schiff trying to figure out, guys, why is the gasoline so high? And the specific new liberal conspiracy theory they've invented is not that it's high because we have extraordinary regulations and taxes on gasoline compared to the rest of the country. But no, surely it must be price gouging by the greedy gas stations. I kid you not. This is now what they're saying while Adam Schiff is proposing to tax gas companies even more, but then saying that's not the reason why your gas prices are high. Take a listen.
He's also called the war illegal. Now he's pushing legislation to call for a full DOJ investigation into price gouging by oil companies. And he's proposing a windfall profit tax on the companies for their record profits. I asked the senator to explain how this legislation he's proposing could actually bring prices down.
If the oil companies believe that they're going to be investigated, if they are investigated, then they'll take action on price. If they think that we're going to pass a windfall profits tax on them because they kept prices up this high, then we're going to see some action by the oil companies.
Yeah, so this is their new theory. It's all because of price gouging, although it's really not that new because you may recall Kamala back in 2024 tried to argue and got ridiculed for the same exact thing, right? Oh, all the inflation, it wasn't because of us. It wasn't because of irresponsible fiscal policy. It's just because the companies are price gouging. And I know the counter argument liberals might bring, which is that, well, hasn't Trump been calling out price gouging as well? Why is it wrong when Democrats say it? Okay, because there's a difference, and let me explain to you the difference. Yes, price gouging, for example, absolutely can happen when, let's say, there's a huge natural disaster or a hurricane, and because people are desperate, a gas station takes advantage of the manufactured scarcity, and because people really need the gasoline, you raise the price to be predatory and take advantage of people. Yes, that's price gouging. Yes, that can happen. By the way, in reaction to an oil shock happening and then ending, for example, the Iran war ending, now oil prices coming back down, but gas prices being slow to follow it. Yes, in that sense, price gouging like that's actually a very common thing that happens, because what's going on is effectively the gas stations are trying to ride out the situation for a little bit more profit than maybe actually reflects the market situation. So yes, temporary stuff like that, that is price gouging, and that can be stuff that happens, and that is real. So why does that not apply to California? Because in the case of California, we're not talking about some temporary thing. We're talking about for the last 10 years, and maybe even before that, I don't know, I wasn't old enough, but I can attest to the last 10 years, you've consistently had basically the highest gas prices in all of the mainland United States, right? Without fail, no matter what. So my question then becomes, and again, that's not much of a mystery. It's because you're overtaxing and overregulating the industry, and yet your solution to the price gouging, quote unquote, is to raise more taxes on oil companies. And it's funny, right? They ask Adam Schiff, hey, how's that actually going to lower the price of gasoline for consumers? It's not, but he gives this very stupid, incoherent response about price gouging, right? And then my other question then, I suppose, to Adam Schiff, if your price gouging theory here is allegedly true, is what then in that case, why is that only happening in California? Why does it not happen in every other state, right? What, so, because couldn't oil companies maximize the most profit if they also price gouged in all the other states, if they price gouged in Arizona, in Texas? Why is it only California where the companies are supposedly price gouging? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because it's not price gouging, right? Maybe because it's very obvious you have this unique regulatory and taxation regime that other states don't have, and that makes gasoline more expensive. And yes, oil companies and gas companies can be greedy in certain regards. We're not denying that. But in the case of California, it's not much of a mystery, right? You can talk about the Iran war, for example, like Ro Khanna, remember a California congressman? He's making this video out in front of a California gas station that had like $6 prices or something, and he's saying, because of the Iran war, your gas prices look like this. And it's like, sure, all of America's prices raised during that time period, but in the case of California, that's not why your gas prices are the highest in the country, right? They've always been high, even at their low, right? Their low, quote unquote, of last year, which was an average of $4.56. That's still insane. That's still outrageous. So the conclusion here, right? It has nothing to do with Iran, because no matter what, even war or no war, you still have the most expensive gas in America. And then secondly, it has nothing to do with price gouging either, because we've all established it's not happening in other states. Why is it only happening in California? So, so again, like this is actually a libtard conspiracy theory. Oh, let's intentionally make things more expensive and then blame price gouging to try to distract or fool people. It's very lazy. It's very stupid, but hopefully you've noticed this to be yet another example, folks. Welcome to the Democrat agenda on affordability, right? It might as well be called unaffordability, because this is what they do. They claim, oh, we're going to run for office to make your life more affordable. They make it less affordable, they raise taxes on you, and then they vow to fight this ghost of price gouging that never actually happens. But sure, I'm sure if you raise taxes even more on ordinary working people, somehow that will make life more affordable for ordinary working people. How? Where? We don't know. It sort of defies logic. The supposed government or public benefit they give back never materializes, but sure. I'm sure if you do it one more time, if you tax billionaires just about 3% more, guys, we'll have free healthcare and nice roads and everything. It's not that we're just like corrupt pieces of crap who are stealing all the money and money laundering and scamming people. No. It's that damn price gouging, right, guys? Utterly ridiculous. But what else can we say? Welcome to Wokistan. Welcome to Libtardistan. Don't vote for this garbage. All right. Anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.